Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today I want to talk about potentially the biggest showdown we've ever seen. In one corner, we've got the SEC and President Biden. In the other corner, Ken Griffin. Let the battles commence. So stay tuned and let's make some money. And now I want to dive straight in with the key information. So, GOP insiders say that Biden, the SEC, and Warren have launched a political vendetta against Citadel. The SEC has actually launched an inquiry into Citadel that targets parts of its business model. Now, this was obviously first reported on Fox News, where it says sources say that the SEC has launched an inquiry into Citadel that targets parts of its business model. And Fox actually then built on that later in the day and said that Citadel founder Ken Griffin is one of the top donators to the GOP candidates in recent years. So let's hear what was said on Fox News.
Republican donors. We've been tracking his donations since, I would say, the last 10 years, $100 million to Republicans and Republican causes.
Wow.
At least Ellie Terrett, my producer, if it's wrong, it's all on her. No, I'm only kidding, but she's good.
That's
She's
Koch
good
brothers
this.
big.
There it is.
Right?
He might be rivaling Charles Koch in terms of contributions
right?
to right-leaning causes. What GOP advisors are telling me, operatives in Washington, is that there's a movement afoot by the Elizabeth Warrens, by the Gary Genslers, to essentially try to neuter his empire and essentially go after him because he is this big guy in terms of Republican causes. And
you don't think they would if he were on the other side doing it?
They're saying, if you look at some of the inquiries that are going on right now, this whole notion that payment for order flow is some sort of a scam, and these things that his Citadel does, it makes no sense. They will tell you, other than it's Ken Griffin doing it. And if you remember, he went before Congress and Warren gave him a hard time on these things. Gensler is now, Gary Gensler, the SEC chief, is doing a major inquiry into the meme stock stuff and whether there were any conflicts of interest involving Citadel's role in it. Remember, they buy the order flow from Robinhood, right? So Robinhood could charge zero commissions. Gensler hates this practice for some reason. I don't know why. It works and people trade cheaply on it. He may outlaw the practice. That would impact Ken Griffin.
But it's legal now.
Totally legal. And by the way, not good research into why it's bad for the retail. It's still very. In any event, that's what we're getting from people in Washington, that they're saying that this stuff that's going on is aimed at him. And it's really interesting because he is. I mean, if you think about it, Jamie Dimon personally doesn't give any money. Steve Schwartzman gives a few bucks over at Blackstone, but he's a Republican, but
he spreads it out too.
Yeah. This is pretty amazing. We tried to find any Democratic donations, we couldn't find any over the last 10 years. So there's a political element, people are saying. And by the way, he is a Republican. He's a conservative. He believes in low taxes, and there's nothing wrong with that. By the way, this is what you promote those policies. Particularly in the face of what's going on in Washington right now.
Now, I think this is really, really brilliant. You have to remember that Ken Griffin is a Republican and donates primarily and basically solely to Republican causes. Now, obviously, Joe Biden is a Democrat. Joe Biden also suggested and put forward Gary Gensler to be head of the SEC, and therefore Gary Gensler must presumably be a Democrat or at least somewhat support the Democrats. On top of that, Elizabeth Warren is also a Democrat. So therefore, you've got 3 Democrats against 1 Republican. Now, this personally, I think, is a genius marketing strategy in a way by Joe Biden, the Democrats, and Gary Gensler and the SEC. Obviously, the Democrats have realised that Ken Griffin at the moment has a lot of bad press. A lot of people out there really don't like him. So what would be better than for the Democrats to basically screw over Ken Griffin, destroy his business? That way, pretty much everyone is happy that Ken Griffin is gone. What a brilliant job the SEC did, and what a brilliant job Joe Biden did, and we'll be sure to re-elect him for another term because the Democrats did that and got rid of Ken Griffin. And therefore, this could actually be a really, really good thing that Biden, the SEC, and Warren have launched this political vendetta against Citadel. Yes, maybe it is just a marketing strategy for the Democrats to appeal to the wider public, and maybe Ken Griffin is going to be a casualty of that marketing campaign, but actually for us, that couldn't possibly work out any better. Now, currently, most people don't have a lot of confidence in the stock market at the moment. These big institutions and market makers have all kind of exemptions, there's a lack of reporting, and it basically seems like the normal rules and regulations just don't apply to them. But when investing in cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and many others, it's more of an even playing field. I personally use BlockFi to invest in cryptocurrency. And not only can you just invest in cryptocurrency and buy some Bitcoin, but you can also earn interest on your deposits up to 8.25% per year. BlockFi also offer a rewards credit card with an introductory offer of 3.5% cashback on every purchase paid in cryptocurrency. There's also no annual fees, but unfortunately it's only available in the US at the moment, not in the UK as well. And when you've generated a large profit on your investment, instead of selling off your Bitcoin to buy a new car, you can take out a crypto-backed loan. That way you can leave your Bitcoin invested with BlockFi, earning you even more money, and you can still get actual fiat cash out to buy things like a new car. So be sure to sign up to BlockFi using my link down in the description below to get up to $250 worth of free Bitcoin just for signing up and making your first deposit. You can see here that Ken Griffin, hedge fund manager and CEO of Citadel, has donated over $35 million to political candidates. That's over the last 10, 11 years. And obviously in the Fox News interview, it showed you that it was over 100 million in the last 20 years. And you can see here in 2020, there's 3 million to the Republican Leadership Fund, another 3 million here, 2 million, another 500,000, another million here as well, 1.5 million, another million, 2 million, and so on and so forth. On top of this, the Republicans are in a bit of a sticky situation at the moment, as McConnell gets a GOP wake-up call. The backlash Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell received from fellow Republican senators last week is a wake-up call to the GOP leader that he doesn't have any more political capital to spend on helping Democrats raise the debt limit again, says GOP aides and strategists. Senate Republican aides and strategists say McConnell's reputation took a hit last week when he agreed to a 2-month increase of the debt ceiling after saying for weeks that Republicans wouldn't help Democrats on the issue. McConnell didn't announce his offer to Senate Majority Leader Charles Schumer until he released a statement on Wednesday, and many Senate Republicans were kept in the dark about it until the statement was made public. McConnell's also heard criticism from allies such as Senate Republican Policy Committee Chairman Roy Blunt, a member of his leadership team, and Senator Lindsey Graham, the top-ranking Republican on the Senate Budget Committee, who has tried to bury the hatchet between McConnell and Trump. So clearly there's also a very sticky situation going on in the House of Representatives, and it seems like the Democrats won't be getting any help to extend the debt ceiling further in December from the Republicans. Now I also wanted to quickly rewind back to AMC and talk about AMC's recent volume and how it mirrors what was seen back in May. Obviously back in June the AMC volume ran up massively. That then trended down over the last few months until now in October, where we've just seen the lowest volume we've seen since back here in May. Now obviously when we saw this super low volume, that was just before the May-June run-up. Back here in May was when there was the least amount of buying of AMC and GameStop going on, and pretty much all of those paper hands had sold off their shares. Now this is what we're seeing again here in October. We're seeing the volume dry up, we're seeing sentiment at its lowest, we're seeing the Google trend results for AMC at its lowest as well, and the hedges have got maximum capitulation out of the paper hands. I've seen many comments of people getting disheartened about AMC, and all rightly, because the volume has been going down drastically. But obviously that's what the hedgies want you to think. They want you to give up hope and to sell your AMC shares. But obviously us diamond-handed apes won't be selling a single share. Now I want to rewind you back to a video that I made the other month talking about Amazon and Jeff Bezos trying to destroy high street companies and brick and mortar companies to move all of that business onto Amazon, and how Jeff Bezos and Amazon are effectively in cahoots with funds like Citadel to try and crush those high street retailers like Toys R Us and Sears so that Amazon can take over more of the sales. The tweet says, I wouldn't be in the least bit surprised if Amazon were behind recent moves to decriminalize shoplifting in New York City and San Francisco in order to drive brick and mortar competitors out of business. I think this is food for thought and really something to think about, as it's really clear to see that Amazon is trying to get rid of as many brick and mortar companies as they possibly can, potentially even like AMC, to help boost their sales. Obviously, Amazon Prime movies would do a lot better without AMC? Now, I think it'd be super interesting to see what kind of donations Jeff Bezos and Amazon makes to political parties, whether they're Democratic and support Joe Biden and the SEC and Gary Gensler, or whether they side with Citadel and they're Republican. We also now have the inflation data for September, and we've seen another massive month of 5.4%, higher than August's 5.3% and in line with June and July. This is now the 5th straight month over 5%, and the year's average is running at 4%. We can see here back in 2008 that we only held over 5% for 3 months, nowhere close to the 5 months, and the year's average was 3.8%, so we're currently holding above 2008's inflation levels. That is absolutely crazy considering back in 2008 we saw a market crash. In 2011, when the inflation was fairly high at 3.2%, we were very close to a crash back in 2011 as well. On top of this, key researchers believe that the inflation magic number is 4. The story's like this: if inflation is low, rising inflation is good for stocks. A rise from 1% to 2% means that the risk of deflation, a serious threat to the stock market, has diminished, so stock prices should rise. However, there's a turning point when economic gains are offset by threats from the Fed, which seems to be around 4%. Higher bond yields are switching from good to bad for equities, and markets are focusing on the dangers of inflation, not the rewards from the economy that is causing inflation. The 4% logic is not written in stone, but it does have reasonable historical support. Since the S&P 500 was founded back in 1957, inflation in the United States has exceeded 4% 9 times, 8 of which resulted in the S&P 500 falling in the 3 months after. The only exception was back in 2005 when inflation fell below 4% immediately after, calming investors. And this makes the recent spike in prices alarming. Government officials insist that the higher prices are the result of reopening the economy, but they ignore the fact there is no precedent for reopening an economy after a shutdown, and therefore there is no way to know if inflation is indeed transitory. Guys, be sure to let me know down in the comments below what you think about the battle between the SEC and Joe Biden and Ken Griffin. And as always guys, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out some of my others. Alternatively, subscribe to the channel and ding that notification bell, because that way you'll be alerted when I upload a new video. Cheers!